Welcome to Chapter 4, titled The Energy Nutrients, Carbohydrate, Protein, and Lipid. In this chapter, we will identify the acceptable macronutrient distribution range and the recommended dietary allowance for carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, learn more about carbohydrates and dietary fiber, where they come from and why they are important, talk about diabetes, what causes it, and what effects it has on your body. We will also identify the dietary sources and functions of protein and explain what essential amino acids and incomplete, complete, and complementary proteins are, identify the big 8 allergens and their relationships to protein, and talk about the different types of lipids, their characteristics, and their importance in health. Our bodies use carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids as fuel to function. These are known as energy nutrients. In our industry, we need to know the characteristics, functions, and nutritional significance of these to create healthy menu options and to understand how these nutrients relate to disease and food allergies. The Food and Nutrition Board of the National Academy of Sciences set the acceptable macronutrient distribution range for carbohydrates for adults at 45 to 65% of daily calories. Carbohydrate intake for individuals depends on the food chosen as well as the diet and lifestyle choices. The recommended dietary allowance for carbohydrate is set at a minimum of 130 grams per day for adults and children over 1 year old. However, carbohydrates are an important source of glucose, which is the body's blood sugar. The goal with carbohydrates is to meet the need for glucose without causing weight gain. If a person consumes too many carbohydrates, it is likely weight gain will occur. For people over the age of 2, the largest source of sugar by percentage of calories are soft drinks, energy drinks, sports drinks, grain-based desserts, sugar-sweetened fruit drinks, dairy-based desserts, and some candy. On the flip side of that, some people might need higher levels of carbohydrates, for example, athletes who use a larger amount of energy. This chart shows the amount of carbohydrates in some common foods. Carbohydrates can be either simple or complex. Simple carbohydrates consist of monosaccharides and disaccharides. Monosaccharides are single unit sugars like glucose, fructose, and galactose. Fructose is the sweetest and can be found in honey and some root vegetables. Disaccharides are two monosaccharides bonded together and form two unit sugars. Sucrose, lactose, and maltose are examples of disaccharides. Sucrose is also referred to as table sugar and is a big contributor to tooth decay. The bacteria in our mouths rapidly consume sucrose and use it for energy and produce acids that destroy tooth enamel. When we are cooking or baking, we see sugar in all kinds of forms. These sugars I use on a regular basis in my kitchen. As a chef, it is important to understand the role that sugar plays with increasing blood glucose levels. Complex carbohydrates contain numerous combinations of saccharides. Polysaccharides are long chains of glucose molecules and take longer to digest than sugar. Starch and fiber are examples of polysaccharides. Some good food sources of complex carbohydrates are pasta, rice, breads, beans, and vegetables. Dietary fiber is one type of carbohydrate that has more health benefits. Fiber provides a feeling of fullness and helps with weight control. It resists digestion and maintains bulk. Whole grain foods contain all the nutritionally essential parts of the grain: the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. The bran contains the most fiber and nutrients. The endosperm provides the flour for white bread, and it's the starchy layer. The germ is the small nutrient-rich inner layer. Studies on whole grain food have linked consumption to lower cardiovascular disease, improved function of the large intestine, and improved blood glucose levels for those that are diabetic. Often you will see products such as flour that are enriched with thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and iron as part of the U.S. government's grain enrichment program. This program was created in 1942 in response to a disease called pellagra, which was caused by a lack of niacin and protein in the diet. In 1996, this program was amended to add folic acid. Enriching products such as flour restores the nutrients that are removed during processing the whole grain. However, not all nutrients get restored to the level that they were originally in the grain. When we do not eat consistently through the day, our body stores carbohydrates as glycogen in the liver and muscle tissue. The liver breaks this down and gives the cells glucose when blood levels are too low. The liver supplies muscle with energy, but once the glucose is stored in the muscle, it must be used by the muscle. Glucose is very important in the body. It is used by red blood cells, the brain, and the nervous system for fuel. To keep blood glucose levels in check, the hormones insulin and glucagon are needed. The role of insulin is to help glucose enter the cell, reducing blood sugar levels. Glucagon promotes release and production of glucose and brings up low blood sugar. When a person is low or lacking in carbohydrates, the body undergoes a metabolic change. Glucose is required to metabolize lipids eaten. When glucose is not there, the liver can't break down the lipids being metabolized. Ketosis is a result. Diabetes is a disease characterized by hyperglycemia or high blood sugar levels. It can be caused by genetics, metabolics, or other conditions like pregnancy. In recent government statistics, approximately 25.3 million people in the U.S. are affected by diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the pancreas stops producing insulin. A child or young adult must be genetically predisposed to develop it, and something like a viral infection must trigger the body's immune system to destroy the insulin-producing cells of the pancreas. About 5 to 10% of individuals have type 1 diabetes. People with type 1 tend to develop cardiovascular issues, and insulin must be taken daily to compensate the body's inability to make the hormone naturally. The treatment is a regular dose of insulin, a diet that controls carbohydrate intake, and an adequate protein and fat diet and daily exercise. Type 2 diabetes is the most common in the U.S. It tends to reveal itself as people age. This form of diabetes is caused by insulin resistance that develops when a person gains weight and produces too much insulin in response to high blood sugar levels. The treatment is getting blood sugar under control with medication and encouraging weight loss with proper diet and exercise. Gestational diabetes occurs in women who have not previously had a diagnosed case of diabetes and have an increased blood glucose level late in pregnancy. Gestational diabetes can result in a difficult delivery and an increased chance that the baby and mother will develop type 2 diabetes after pregnancy. Diabetes is a chronic disease with many complications. If an individual with diabetes does not take care of their health, they risk complications such as blindness, amputation, kidney disease, and cardiovascular disease. Restaurants and the food service industry can help customers by providing menu options, developing healthy recipes, and having appropriate portion sizes. A protein is different from a carbohydrate and lipid. Proteins are the only nutrient that provide nitrogen. Nitrogen is required for body tissue to grow. Proteins are compounds of long chains made from varying amino acids. The amino acids twist and fold, forming three-dimensional shapes. The chemical properties of amino acids help give shape to proteins and determine their special functions. In this chart, you can see the DRI for protein for males and females at varying ages. Here are some different foods with their approximate protein content. Soy is a highly valued vegetarian protein source. It is a good source of nutrients, has high amounts of polyunsaturated fat, minerals, vitamins, and fiber, and also contain lower levels of saturated fat than meat. It also contains properties thought to be helpful in reducing cholesterol and cancer. Soy can be found in tofu, soy milk, tempeh, miso, and often in meatless vegetarian burgers, cold cuts, and cheese. Protein is not unlike most things. Too little can cause problems, and too much can cause problems. Even though there isn't a tolerable upper intake level established for protein, there is evidence pointing to harmful outcomes if protein in excess of 35% of energy intake is consumed. These problems include osteoporosis, kidney stones, and dehydration leading to kidney stress. A lack of protein that leads to a deficiency can result in loss of muscle mass, fatigue, insulin resistance, hair loss, and loss of skin elasticity. Food allergies are always important and always need to be taken seriously. There are times when even a small amount can cause anaphylactic shock or anaphylaxis. With protein, the allergic reaction is to the protein portion of the food that is eaten. 8 protein foods that commonly cause allergies are peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, wheat, dairy, soy, fish, and shellfish. Lastly, we have lipids. With lipids, we are thinking about different fats: triglycerides, cholesterols, water-soluble, and fat-soluble. Lipids are needed in the body for various functions, but the concern revolves around cholesterol and generally consuming too much. When cholesterol builds up in the body, it may settle in the artery walls and create fatty deposits in the blood vessel walls, which are potential causes for cardiovascular disease. Cooking and baking with fats and oils. I feel like I need to hang my head in shame or something with this, because I can tell you that on the pastry side anyway, there are not going to be many good alternatives to the fats and oils that we can use. Manufacturers have produced different types of low-fat trans oils, but they still aren't really considered healthy. The everything in moderation approach seems to be the best approach according to recent research. The Food and Nutrition Board recommends that our intake of fats be in moderation and emphasis of the type of fat, with healthy over the amount. So that leads us to which is better, margarine or butter. And the one pastry student I had last year that's in this class, and you know who you are, you know that me and the 100 pounds of butter that I use per semester are cringing at this question. When it comes to heart health, margarine is going to be your healthier option. Margarine is made from vegetable oil, so it contains more unsaturated fat than saturated, while butter, it just contains your saturated fat. However, you really have to read labels because not all margarine is the same. Regardless of what you use, both need to be used in moderation, and it probably would just give me an all-out heart attack to substitute margarine for all of my baking. So quality over quantity, I guess. I'll just be doing my part of serving smaller portion sizes. If you've ever had your cholesterol levels checked, you've probably have heard the doctor talk about your good and bad cholesterol levels. The good cholesterol is the high density lipoprotein, or HDL, and bad is the low density lipoprotein, or LDL. The LDL has more cholesterol than it delivers to the cells, and the cells incorporate this into the cell membranes and allow the body's cholesterol levels to rise. The HDL absorbs cholesterol and carries it back to the liver, which flushes it from the body. High levels of HDL are thought to lower cardiovascular risks. So when we're looking at our cholesterol, what we are looking for is the HDL. So we want the good type of cholesterol. Thank you for listening to the Chapter 4 lecture. Please review the summary slides 21 through 41. After reading Chapter 4, please complete the Chapter 4 quiz and have a great week.